Stop the presses. The sun has come out in Berlin, and that, my friends, is something new that I have not seen since I landed here from the land of Scylla and Charybdis just a few days ago here on Saturday. So it is a welcome return, and it is a welcome return to have you back here, dear viewer, and everybody who attended the Spaces yesterday. Artist Journal, November 16th, 2023, broadcasting from the ship in my mind in Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and look at this. Look at this powerful work by Sabato, always the thoughtful artist, and quite a powerful, poetic, rendition of our situation here as gazers on the global news media narrative, right? And incorporating it basically directly in the work. I believe Sabato said the footage is AFP and Al Jazeera. Interesting mix. And here, I thought it was quite interesting too. I mean, it looks clearly like a Deluxe 4 painting, or a Deluxe 4 painting. You know, we're deep in the digital when I'm calling, like a work like this a painting. That's how far deep we are in this digital world here, which I think is totally awesome. Actually, I love referring to these as paintings because in a sense, it basically is a painting with a new medium, or, quote unquote new medium with a digital medium. Right? Painting with a digital medium. There's the title of our show today. Perhaps. We'll see where it goes. It's always a surprise. So here, just looking at the setting, and again, it's almost got like this, kind of echoes that work that Sabato did of his girlfriend, I think, in bed. And here it seems like, a lot of people these days probably have their laptop, because I remember there's, I think, the woman with her laptop in bed, if I'm not mistaken. And here we are kind of again, kind of a portrait of so many people, watching the news on their laptop, and here kind of beautifully rendered, I thought quite poetically and quite subtly, in the sense that a lot of Sabato's drawing exercises have movement. And I think it was likely purposeful that all the movement, what you might call the focal point, is really this, sampled news. And it is sampled and even treated a little bit, I think, a tiny bit, just maybe it's just transformed into this laptop here. And even kind of, somewhat, I would say almost somewhat a little bit roughly done, but in a nice way, loosely done, as my friend always corrects me. And the hair is beautiful, I might add. And even this kind of what looks like maybe a wood paneling kind of thing and everything. And even this, is a sunset in the background. And even the kind of like the radiator heater. And there's the watermelon hilariously. And I don't know, is that Monster drink? I don't know. The pillows. There's even a touch of a Manet feel, as I think the other Boo, a portrait of Boo, I think is the work. If you haven't seen that work, it is tempting to call that one a masterpiece. This is a beautiful work, and really, again, a poetic work, a work that is a picture of us, in a sense. It is a portrait of all of us in the world who are, let's say, able to pay attention to what is going on here. Beautiful, very contemporary portrait, a poetic portrait, and interesting mixing of mediums here, too. And again, even just the pillows here, there's something really just charming, and I think kind of careful, finally. I think not only is it just making it a focal point, I suspect, and who knows, I suspect Sabato is not kind of adding what I am tempted to call a rolling gradient here, as is often used in deluxe paint, because perhaps that would trivialize the work a little bit, I suspect. Again, Sabato is a very, one of my favorite artists in this scene because it's so well thought out, so many of his works from concept to completion. And so it wouldn't surprise me if the reason we don't have movement it's first it's the focal point, but also maybe it would trivialize the painting a little bit to put this kind of, retro gradient spinning through, and then, would it trivialize the work a little bit? So I think a pretty interesting, intelligent decision here, with war as the subject matter, as per usual here. So kind of an interesting situation. I didn't see it. I think it came out, when did this come out? It came out November 13th. It's November 16th. So this came out on Tuesday, I guess at 10:30. So we haven't had a show since. But I never saw it on Object, which is interesting. I wonder if there's an issue loading up new Tezos files. Because you see, here's Sabato's created, and I suspect that's a new one. For whatever reason, doesn't show up on the object. Maybe there's a setting you can put in Tezos to prevent that. I don't know, but I had to go to Tezos to track it down. There are still quite a few left, and I think that's the reason why. They are 14 Tezos each. Interesting title, The Viewer, great title, and this is also a very interesting touch here, MG.03. Marginalia. Okay, so this is part of the Marginalia series. And if I could just click on that. So here's the Marginalia series, right? And this, to tie the bow on this, I believe this series had kind of a depression kind of theme to it, kind of a depressive kind of works, and hence the blue, perhaps. If I have that right. So interesting, part of the Marginalia collection. Sabato, and I follow Sabato, that is a X glitch. I think it's okay for artists to reflect on the times they are living in, because we are human after all. Recordez et vivez, as the poet says. I wonder which poet that is. Maybe with the A there, I would assume maybe a Latin American. So I made a new drawing, an attempt to process the times, the viewer. So very, and you got to applaud, at least I do, the ambition of trying to do this. You could argue, it's very important. People make art for different reasons. One could argue one of the reasons to make art, and maybe one of the most important reasons, is to basically give a reflection of the time, to process the times, and to deal with the world, to quote Ballard, the world we live in. And that's kind of what this is. And it kind of does give a bit of a Ballard echo with this kind of media reel, cycling through, this GIF cycle, movie cycle in this GIF. And I think it's a GIF. Let's just quickly look if this is an MP4. It is a GIF. How cool, again, not to trivialize the subject matter here, but how cool is that? Wow, right? So very cool here from Sabato. Again, find it on Tezos. It is 14 Tezos. There are still a few left. And just to, I kind of like this. I thought, we didn't return to this last episode, and I looked it up. I was like, it is Charybdis, Scylla and Charybdis. And for those that may not be familiar, those are the two sea monsters, and they're in, I believe it's in the Odyssey, and it's actually in the Aeneid. They don't mention the Aeneid here. Scylla and the myth in its proverbial use. I was actually very surprised. I didn't see the Aeneid here, or the Aeneid, which is the Roman, basically, epic. So many of you have read the Odyssey and the Iliad. The Iliad, of course, comes first, about the Trojan War, and the Odyssey is the return back to the homeland that takes 10 years after the end of the Trojan War. And along the way, they run into Scylla and Charybdis, were mythical sea monsters noted by Homer. Greek mythology cited them on opposite sides of the Strait of Messina, between Sicily and Calabria. And what was so interesting about that, remember that scene I was showing you at the back? I think it was the last time we started with Sabato, which was only a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know how long it's been. Since I was in Taormina, maybe it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. In the background was actually the edge, whereas Messina you would probably see in the distance, and then on the other side was the toe of Italy, and that was Calabria. And it was there that Scylla and Charybdis were thought to, be in Greek mythology. Uh, so just Scylla was rationalized as a rock shoal, described as a six-headed monster on the Calabrian side of the strait, so on the Italian side, where the toe is, and Charybdis was a whirlpool off the coast of Sicily, right by Messina. And again, that's the Messina Strait. A lot of people in the Odyssey were killed, taken by the six-headed monster, I believe, on the way. A very dramatic episode. Very quick thing on the Aeneid. Many people read the Odyssey and the Iliad. Not many people read the Aeneid, and if you haven't, I would highly recommend it. It is, I would argue, in a certain respect, I mean, they have their different qualities, but you really will understand basically what I would argue is ancient Roman aesthetic and poetry, however you want to call that, at its finest, at its most dramatic. And you don't need to go far into that book. I think it's book 2, like chapter 2, basically, in the Aeneid. I think it was the fall of Troy. And that is not in the Iliad or the Odyssey. So I'm going too long here. But all to say, if you haven't read the Aeneid, do yourself a favor. Virgil's Aeneid, find a nice translation, and it's well worth your while. And it's sort of a staple. Final point on this, and part of the reason I'm bringing this up here, I remember English literature class. I did a master's in English after I did, a double degree in visual arts and English. And I remember in undergrad doing an English class, and the teacher, Peter Stoichev, the professor, who later actually became my advisor or supervisor, and he's actually president of the University of Saskatchewan right now, which is wonderful. He had this great sort of thing which I took away with me, which is basically if you're going to be, say, for example, an English literature scholar, there are certain works you have to know. And he was basically saying, you got to know your Bible, and it's not like you need to know it inside out, but you basically need to have a pretty good idea of what's going on, let's say, in the book of Genesis and the New Testament, and maybe some of the more famous stories, say, in the Bible. You got to know your Odyssey and Iliad. You got to know your Shakespeare. You could argue to a certain degree, even a little bit of Sherlock Holmes. But he didn't go that far. You probably got to know your Edgar Allan Poe. Like there are certain, you got to know your Jane Austen, but he was sort of saying the big stuff, and that always sort of stuck with me. I was like, okay, and the final takeaway here is, the argument could be made that if you want to play the very big game of the art game, so to speak, across the millennia, there are certain works that you need to know in order to play that game, or at least be seen as a credible player in that game. And it doesn't mean you have to and all that, but actually, if you want to play the grand game, I would argue, and I think the argument can be made, and I'm fairly sympathetic to that argument. And so this is why I quite happily, bring up, say, Heraclitus and Scylla and Charybdis here. And I hope to continue doing that, actually, because I think it gives us credibility here, all of us, as we continue our discussion here with the latest and greatest art coming out across the planet in this revolutionary blockchain scene here. I mean, it is quite revolutionary what's going on here when you zoom out. Finally, in the Aeneid, the Trojans are warned by Helenus of Scylla and Charybdis and are advised to avoid them by sailing around Cape Passero rather than risk the strait. Later, however, they find themselves passing Etna. And Etna is, you see it right there, Mount Etna. And here's the Strait of Messina. So they tried to go around, but then they still got caught by, Scylla or Charybdis, who is on the edge of Sicily here, the whirlpool, and have to row for their lives to escape. So just a little bit there. Taormina is also right by Etna here. And you can fly into Catania really easily here. If you can see that, let me see if I can make that bigger. Yeah, so Catania is about here. Syracuse is here. You can see it actually right there. And and there is Etna, which is I think the biggest active volcano in Europe. And here is Messina, the city of Messina, and this is the Messina Strait. So, of course, this is Calabria. Taormina is a must-see. I had no idea. I guess White Lotus was filmed there. So a little bit of classics to get us started here. Very fun. And continuing on, what a show yesterday. Thank you, everybody, for attending here. Nice turnout. It was like an all-star. You could have had that. The whole audience was so many stars, really, from this scene here. And, of course, Lorna Mills, a fantastic discussion. There was so much reality. Like, I think Rosetio was saying, like, put out a comment about how interesting the show was. And I was thinking to myself this morning, I wrote in a comment, it's like Lorna Mills is the real deal. Like, this is someone who wanted to be an artist from 6 years old, which I can relate to, actually. It was something just like, it's just like they're, and by 8 wanting to be famous and and there was just so much honesty and reality in that space. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend it. Again, it's real world, hard-won experience insights, real-world insights from hard-won experience is what I think I wrote in answer to Rosetio's comment there. And that was it. So thrilling space there with Lorna Mills. She probably will come back in the new year. She said she would, so that is exciting. To discuss, we only got to the robot painting at the end, and she wanted to delay till next episode because there's so much to unpack there. So something to look forward to in the coming months. Quick comments here. Mumble Boy. Thank you, Adrian, for showing my work. We're going to show a few more Mumble Boy today. I really love that you thought of Temple Mizmiz, Mo S-H-I-T, when you saw the piece, as he is my favorite Tezos artist. Very interesting. And big hat tip to Hasdrubal Waffle, who brought it to my attention. Hasdrubal with a very interesting, good eye on the scene there too, and just sophisticated sense of what is actually going on out there. I've learned a ton from Hasdrubal Waffle, and who led me to Curio Fringe. And we have a few works here on the Curio Fringe from the Curio Fringe feed. Just checking in again. Always interesting there. So thank you, Mumble Boy. Dan Anthony Kelly, lurking for a while now, absolutely loving all the art talk. Well, welcome home. Welcome home. Figured I would comment and just mention how much I dig the show. Awesome. Thank you, Dan. That is a wonderful comment. And again, welcome home. Scomra, great to see you visit Output Volume again or being prolific at the beginning of the show, since it's something I think about all the time. There's a quote someone said once, I don't remember who. If you're super lucky and super talented, you get one work that lasts forever that everyone knows. For example, the Mona Lisa. I don't completely agree with the sentiment, but it was instructive to me. All of your bad works will be forgotten. Even some really great works will probably be forgotten. Your goal is to make something that everyone remembers, and so why not roll the dice on a masterpiece as many times as you can? And I think that is actually exactly, once again, Scomra, exactly on point here. You are basically rolling the dice every time, and you're working with you're working with randomness when you work a lot, I would argue. And so the more you just don't know what's going to come out. You're still the same talented person, but sometimes things just work out, right? So why not roll the dice on a masterpiece as many times as you can? Wise words. Now, say we roll that back some and say the concept of a masterpiece might not be our goal as an artist. Maybe my main goal is to make work that touches the viewer emotionally or intellectually or financially. Just kidding. And this also, people make art for different reasons. So again, a very sort of insightful commentary here. In my opinion, the more work you make, the more likely you are to connect with the viewer. For me, those connections are the reason I'm making the work, so increasing output just increases the chances we have at making connections. I'm the creator, and there will be an owner, but the important person in the equation is the viewer. Bringing us to, interestingly, to our opening work here by Sabato called The Viewer. And maybe, That's a pretty interesting title when we think of, a viewer of a work of art, the observer here. It kind of adds another layer of meaning to, because of Sabato's work to a certain degree. The viewer doesn't care about how many works you made. They care about this one work that is resonating with them. This is a very good point too. Like if you're making shockingly good works, I don't know if, as long as they're not like 30 a day, where people start to get suspicious and, like, because who can? Then there probably is something that's too easy, right? But if you're making like a great work a day or every 2 or 3 days, then you're on Picasso's schedule. So happy to see you discuss No Hygiene on this show, who had the very edgy, again, Hystrubal Waffle, put out the tweet, and I was like, I've been looking at No Hygiene for weeks here, trying to figure it out. Hystrubal Waffle put out the tweet about a week or two ago saying, something's going on here with No Hygiene. And I was like, and No Hygiene has also been very consistent with this kind of experimental, which builds credibility. So for me, on my personal journey of kind of crafting this show together, I go, okay, this person, like for me, it's like, okay, like it's kind of earned the spot in my little journal here. I've been enjoying collecting the works, and I have quite a few. Yeah, and they're fairly reasonably priced. The Alnus score video game and pixels are irresistible to me on a gut level. Great show. I watched it twice. Thanks for showing my work. Thank you. It was a great response on the last show too. I think we were at 14,000 views the last I looked. That was a fabulous. So thank you everybody for the support, and Scammer for the comment. Hugo, how are we doing here? We got to speed up. Thank you for the comment on my artwork. Oh, so this is Ugo. We like to joke as Ugo42. Thanks for the comment on my artwork. The name of the little guy, and I actually woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, it's Clippy. And then you had this comment. Maybe this came. I didn't see the comment though. The little guy from Microsoft is called Clippy. Anna Young and intrusive Clippy was kicked out in 2007. Jeez, that's almost 20 years ago. 15 years ago. This is a tribute to him. Awesome. Thank you, Ugo42. Rada, love the selections. Adrian, gonna have to watch it again and do some shopping. Well, music to my ears, Rada, and I'm just so thrilled to hear from Rada every time. And again, Rada putting out that super cool drop, physical, digital, playing with the mechanics there, super cool. Runetune, this is super interesting as well on the topic of crediting art matter. As you may recall from our spaces, this is Runetune, and with them, they made it very clear that they are not simply a fabricator for an artist's work, but rather a collaborator. So your analogy to Adobe tools used by artists isn't quite accurate, because in that example, artists are using tools created by a company to produce work. I would still say, like, I'm not sure it's so different though, because I think you could argue that art matter is this exact definition. That artists are using those tools created by that company to produce work. Now, I don't know the extent of the collaboration though. So with art matter, it is a process of trial and error here, and Runetune is explaining it here. It's a process of trial and error, communication, fabrication, reduce, repeat. As someone who has not had the opportunity to work with art matter, though I would love to, me as well, by the way. I can't speak from experience how involved this collaboration is, but to your point, I think what really needs to be brought into question when crediting art matter is the level of involvement between them and the artist. And you know what maybe the happy medium of this is, at least for me? The simple solution is painting credit goes to the artist and art matter. And I'd even be tempted to put the artist first. And then it's sort of like that is the credit, and that is the most accurate. I can't think of a more accurate way of presenting the credit, right? Because the composition is the artist's, the impetus of the work is the artist's. Art matter is still doing its thing, so sure. But I think both deserve a credit on the paintings, is my take. Thank you for the thoughtful comment, and thanks for the mention. So I think this is Evelyn. You're welcome, Evelyn and Radayanki. First again. Absolutely. High five. Leonidas, in the past 24 hours, so we've been following this ordinals, developing story here. In the past 24 hours in the ordinal space, NodeMonkeys announced it will be a free mint. So this is coming down to, okay, let's say you start making stuff on ordinals. How should you do it? So NodeMonkeys are a free mint. Again, these are like PFP type projects, I think. BTC Ordinal announced a 10,000 supply collection, 100% on uncommon sats. And what I think uncommon sats means is they're minted when, I was thinking to myself, I probably lost out on millions of dollars, or at least $1 million probably, by not minting the Peloponnesian War and spending, I don't have that money, but if I had $200,000 or however much it would have cost to mint it, and kept 50 for me, they'd probably be like 50 Bitcoin. Who knows? Who knows? Supply collection of 100% on uncommon sats are rarer sats. And the guy I was working with, he was like, yeah, I think I got some really rare sats. So yeah, that's life though. On-Chain Monkey hinted they will migrate to Bitcoin by the end of the month. So someone else is migrating. And Ninja Alert said they are targeting the end of the year for inscribing their Ninjas collection. Quadrillion Art hit secondary and a fourth person got a Taproot Wizard's tattoo. The floodgates of high-quality Bitcoin collections are about to open. So I keep saying this, and when I was approached in August, what I was told is there's not enough like art on Bitcoin, or at least like, art in the sense that we're talking about it. So again, opportunity knocks. And if people have other examples, that was what I was told. And so I'm just sort of saying, opportunity knocks there still. I say to myself more than anybody, this is super interesting too. L2s are not congested and often 50 cents to swap. Solana is still cheaper, $1.52 to swap on Polygon. And is that the ZK rollup version of Polygon? $1.52. So now what this means for those that don't know. So Solana has had a massive run. It's gone up from basically, let's say $20 and it's around $60, $65 now. And meanwhile, ETH is up. These L2s are up, but nothing has really overtaken, nothing has performed like Solana. And this tweet, I think, maybe gives us insight into what's going on, which is, although Solana is centralized, it delivers very fast and very, very, very cheap transactions. And it is kind of back to this idea, is Polygon really going to be, mainstream adoption when it costs $1.51 US to make a transaction? Even, 50 cents, 20 cents. So, if Solana's at, 1 cent or less, and again, I keep saying Polkadot, there's an obscure interview out there where Gavin Wood is basically saying, we can make it feeless. We can even erase the whole wallet thing. So if that happens, so it's just very interesting. Are we starting to see a little bit of stress here? So just in relative strength, as the financial people would say. So just kind of interesting. Zach from Zora, and huge shout out to Zach. I'm on the homepage there. Huge our Zora update for all of you prolific folks out there. Batch upload is real and live, so you can put many works at once. This is a great moment to bring larger sections of your archive on chain, work in a broad series, or just generally mint a bunch of things at once. Pair this with the mint all. So here it is. You can mint. See this? Upload imagination. I think that's a brilliant, catchphrase or slogan. Upload imagination. I mean, that's worthy of a major of McDonald's, as far as I'm concerned, or Coke. Upload imagination. I mean, that's brilliant. So anyway, here it is. And big shout out to Zach and the people at Zora who are keeping it very interesting. Robness, I thought this was an interesting comment. The same old art cabals are forming again, and it's boring as F. Edit, maybe it's just the same old stupid human condition, and it's just biological, no matter how intelligent we think we are. It is interesting. I think the good news, say, in this decentralized or on this internet world is, I think, because the gates are, especially with Foundation, Object, because they're open platforms, Zora, which I never mentioned last time, because they're open platforms that are credible, where you can sell your art and not feel like, again, Walk makes eBay work for him, but it's a tricky area. Like most people, if they were to put their work on eBay, I'm not sure it would, a contemporary gallery might say to me, like, what are you doing putting your work on eBay? Now, Walk, it's part of the manifesto, and it actually is quite smart. It makes me take his work quite seriously on eBay and go, oh, maybe I should go in. But all to say, I think this is interesting, but I have a feeling they're going to be more disruptible, is sort of my take. You could argue the show to a certain degree is kind of an example of that. I mean, nobody was asking for me to give my opinions on anything, and it's still a small show, as you'll see from the YouTube views, but it is kind of encroaching a little bit. So, all to say, interesting comment, though, and something to watch out for, something to be vigilant on. So interesting comment. And speaking of old art cabals, Jerry Saltz, Refik Anadol's, and I thought this was interesting. Of course, Jerry Saltz, the most prominent, I guess you'd call him an art critic in the world. I think we could argue the most famous name, at least. I don't know if he's the most respected, but he's the most famous for sure. And another kind of trashing here. It's a weird pattern. And again, kind of echoes this art cabal sort of mentality. Refik Anadol's mind-numbing multi-million-dollar spectacle is a house of cards and a hall of mirrors. Momentary diverting gimmick art, take away the music, and it's just a banal screensaver, cool by me. So he's saying it's gimmickry, novelty, a screensaver. And what I thought was kind of weird about this was Refik Anadol just arrived in Milan to give a master class at Photo Vogue, our metamorphosis. So here he's just kind of, artists struggle to do their work, to be known, to climb up, at least. And I may even be sympathetic to Jerry Saltz's interpretation. I think there's something to be said. Maybe it kind of does look like a screensaver. Fair enough, but I just find, what is this helping? How are you, what is this? Is kind of my takeaway here. This person's not attacking anybody, just kind of celebrating their art. You don't have to love it, but do you need to try, especially from the position that Jerry Saltz is in, do you have to attack it? I just find it bizarre. He probably justifies it to himself as, I am protecting what we consider good taste, is probably how Jerry Saltz rationalizes it to himself. But really, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. And I think it's just I just think it's bad form. And I think it shows, is actually what I would say. I think it's just bad form. To start, it's different if it's solicited. We had this discussion the last time Jerry Saltz did it. It's different if the opinions are solicited. It's different if you're in a class and you're paying someone to help you get better. Okay, you're soliciting feedback, but even then, you don't need to insult it. You can still be kind of, fairly neutral in your assessment, right, in your language. So just interesting. That wasn't a one-off. That's why I'm showing that. That last one wasn't a one-off. So here it is again. And these are just the ones that I see. LXTXCX. GM, an art teacher, suggested rather condescendingly that I should focus on one style if I want to succeed in the art world. So we've been having this discussion, again, the Richard Prince discussion. The art world wants to put you into a box, or the body of my work would look unfocused. And so today I couldn't be happier doing all kinds of art without being bound by the consequences. So interesting, right? And I think ultimately you have to follow yourself. I mean, I think the important thing is if you do a lot of things, that's fine. I do a lot of things kind of proudly. To me, it shows range as long as you're kind of consistent with those works and you kind of keep coming back. I mean, Lorna Mills yesterday was saying how she's going back to works and ideas that she had 10 or 15 years ago. And and I totally relate to that. I mean, the Promoted Stories series, I've been struggling with that since 2016, and I feel like only the latest rendition is actually a rendition that works for me, that I actually really like. So it's interesting. It's another interesting discussion. This is also interesting from Guandonarian, speaking of art school. Art school costs £60,000 a year. That is insane, isn't it? Asebright costs $20. So isn't that interesting? And I think it speaks to this scene. And again, it's kind of back to Robness's comment. I think the cheapness or the low cost of a lot of the software here. Like, to echo our AI artists that we've been looking at who did the Global South series, like the Global South is getting in. And as we see here, somewhat surprisingly, not anymore, but it was when you first discover it. When I tell people, they're surprised. Which countries? Where is it? Where's everything coming from? Like, are there certain areas? And it's like, yeah, Turkey and Argentina outperform. So it's interesting. So, anyways, I thought that was a great comment and speaks to the times. Rip Cash. Artists wear a lot of different hats. Making art is only one of them. There's also sales, marketing, PR, production, logistics, accounting, strategy, research, editorial, etc. Juggle all of those, put in a ton of work, add a bunch of luck, and you might just have an art career. So, yeah, it is an enormous undertaking, and it really is, to succeed as an artist is quite a superhuman endeavor. Lorna Mills has done it, and Uxine, I remember putting out a similar tweet like this, like maybe 3 months ago. I mean, it's sort of a topic you'll hear every so often. All of the different hats artists have to wear. It is not for people that it's not for the lazy. Let's put it that way. I basically work constantly, and I'd love to have another 4 hours in the day to make more work. Check this out. RJ, Narcissistic Tendencies, 4 selfie self-portraits being inscribed onto the blockchain. So remember, Ripcash and Spiegels was inscribing onto the blockchain. So is RJ in an act of contemporary technological egoism. Again, I feel like that dovetails very nicely with our discussion yesterday with Lorna Mills. So I guess that's RJ. So a face behind the voice and the works here, and all inscribed on the blockchain. So you'll notice there is not, I'd like to know actually how many bytes these works are. Basically 2-color works from what I can see here, and not even that many lines, right? So keeping it, again, it's as Ripcash was saying in an earlier tweet, it's an interesting challenge. And I find it, like, when you succeed at this challenge, I think it becomes elegant. Like, this is another what I'd call elegant solution here from RJ. So inscribing on chain. Spiegels Maskinen, the desktop at Bricks Gallery, some incredible detail shots. So I just wanted to show some of these you'd call installation shots. And I think these are all, yeah, so here's some, and I think at the start there was one. That vertical one is pretty cool. Let me go to the start. I think there was like a little, yeah, I thought that was great too, the desktop. So a physical, almost sculptural sort of idea here. And then you also see here the works, how they're displayed. So just interesting installation shots from Spiegels Maskinen. Also, Louis Pont, GM, Art in, so this is Case, Art in Every Home. We Love Cycles of Disintegration, number 23 of 30 by Louis Pont, using infinite objects. And I'd never noticed this before, but I guess, interesting combination. They're almost like stickers here that are on top and almost translucent. Interesting, I never noticed that. And kind of gives another kind of layer of physicality here. It kind of reminds me actually of 8so writing with marker on the Polaroid, giving it that kind of final layer. It's like it kind of those Polaroids probably need that. And you could argue this adds a lot of kind of depth and preciousness. Because when you're making a physical work of art, I would argue, I think it's self-evident, but maybe people disagree with me, you want it to look precious. Ultimately, you're selling something for, it's probably going for thousands and thousands of dollars. It better look precious. If it doesn't look precious, maybe there's something wrong. So this is helping the preciousness. Polygon 1993, Certificate of Authenticity and Art. So kind of hilarious here. A mini disc. I used to actually have a lot of Goa tracks on mini disc, and I would even like mess around with DJing with mini disc, if you can believe that. There looks like a Polygon 1993 work. Another takeaway from Lorna Mills, before blockchain, people would use USB sticks to sell work oftentimes. And I asked Lorna Mills about that, and she said, yeah, and you make sure there's a really nice, fancy certificate of authenticity with it. So here's a certificate of authenticity with some sort of physical rendition here. And this was interesting too. Gogolitis, who I do follow, is at the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. Of course, we were talking about the Pikachu and I can't remember what they call these things again. Pokemon at Van Gogh Amsterdam. So I guess they even have like a Van Gogh as Vincent as Pokemon Pikachu, where there are more than 200 pieces. Got to catch them all. So having fun over there. And here, Uxine, interesting. No gifts today. So looks like Uxine is working. I'd guess this is acrylic, but not absolutely sure on that. This looks like an Uxine being attempted in the physical. So how interesting is that? And I suppose this is by Uxine. So pretty cool and interesting to see the translation, isn't it? So interesting work there. And finally, Pale Kirill. So we've been looking at this series here. Reflections is live. 9 of 16 pieces in the Not Me series are available for purchase via reserve-triggered auctions. Each token comes with original 26 by 30 oil painting by the Art Matter robot. See all details below. So here it is once again. And you see the works being made here. Do you see the texture? When you look up super close, actually the texture doesn't match up. So you see, as you see here, maybe it's a mix. Maybe it's a mix of using painting color or just doing the texture underneath. Anyway, very interesting. Here it's just white, but then you see what looks like a colored. See that? That looks like colored paint. So maybe they do both. Not sure. A little ambiguous there. Into the work we go at the 41-minute mark. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I promised that I was going to make these shorter last episode, so much for that. In the event of my death, please bury my Takashi 6'9" rainbow teeth atop its Bitsy Spider Mountain. Much thanks. A Struble Waffle, edition of 6, pretty rad. Nice, like, kind of, like what it looks like to me are the ghosts in Pac-Man, don't they? Don't they remind you of that? Just another super cool work here. They look effortless. By Hasdrubal Waffle, just making it look so easy. In the event of my death, cool title. You know, another hilarious thing about the Lorna Mills thing? Last spoiler, if you haven't heard it yet. She gets the titles of her works from racehorses. All of them. All the titles of her works are from racehorses. Someone asked that, and there were brilliant questions. It really took a team to get all the info out. Runetoon asked some great questions, and people were writing in underneath the space with great questions. It was really cool. We got a really great kind of nice overview of Lorna's process, work, and everything. Poltergeist, another work by Hasdrubal Waffle. I wonder if this is N64. Demi Moore, more pop culture references, and Ghost in My House. And so just really, really interesting, cool, original artwork from Hasdrubal Waffle. Once again, no clues on the software here, Poltergeist. And again, this is new November 15th. So very fun to see the Hasdrubal Waffle account up and running. Ed Marola with a beautiful, beautiful work here. What was this called again? Summertown. Great title, too. Summertown. And what looks like kind of like a European town or castle. Almost looks like Praha or Prague. And like a architecture you'd see in Prague, and then these beautiful, beautiful fires here, and almost the heat waves being put through, and almost a bit of a feeling of Halloween here in the ghost, and even this looks like Prague, actually a famous castle in Prague in the kind of downtown area, and then kind of taken out. There's a famous astrological clock, but then of course it's surrounded by other buildings. So pretty interesting here, gorgeous work here. Admiral Reserve of 0.15, minted yesterday. Look at Martin Brook. I think this is a brand new mint here too, 2 fountains. So more interesting experimentation here, looking like pixel art, maybe AI pixel art, not sure, with combining mediums with video here. Something that I think Curio Fringe does as well. And you could argue, like, kind of, these all fit quite well with Hasdrubal Waffle as well, like these kind of just, jittering, looks like putting these digital paintings through a video processing of a certain kind. Interestingly, perhaps is what's going on here. So Reserve of 0.12 from Martin Brook. This is on foundation, 2 fountains. Zoxo, one of all of our favorites here, Technoflower. I think I saw this. There are a few from Curio Fringe's feed. Again, I rated Curio Fringe's feed here. Let me see. Is there any volume on here? I think. Let's see if this plays. Otherwise, it would be sad, wouldn't it? My internet here is... Oh, is it going to play? You know what I'm going to do? Let's see if I can get onto my phone here. Let's see, because the phone offers better internet, and let's... There we go. Hopefully. There we go. I mean, pretty wild. And this great brush, the blue. So just, I mean, you gotta love an artist who, if they didn't make it, nobody would make it. You know, that's sort of the impression I get from Zoso. Just a really cool artist. What is this? 3 Tezos edition of 25, 19 left. Technoflower, full title. Mumbleboy. So Mumbleboy is back. I saw the light. So again, just really interesting digital collage, it looks like here. And I think some of these are older works. I'm not sure, but when I made it, the song I Saw the Light came to my mind, and I may have titled it that, and for some reason, Son of Mr. Lundgren found my post on Instagram and commented on it. So it sounds like the guy who maybe made the song. So more interesting work here from Mumbleboy, a new artist on the show here, Ani Goko, another work here. So interesting digital collage combined with this kind of rainbow background here and everything. Just interesting work as we get to know the work of Mumbleboy. Here's one more. Show Me the Pudding. So I think these are older works. I think I saw a tweet that Mumbleboy was going to be putting out some older works. So just interesting to see what's going on. Keeping it new over here. Edition of 3 for only 4 Tezos. Very low edition. This was interesting too. Not sure if this came from Curio's feed or just on Twitter. 2006, The Year of the Dog. And this is by Olivia Patey. Art by Liv is the series. So just an interesting work here. 2006, The Year of the Dog. And just, yeah, just interesting artist I've never seen before. And just interesting work here. Strange and interesting. Reserve of 0.3. So just cool to note. Rustic digital art, Sheeps and Clouds. So continuing with these programmer clouds or ASCII clouds, whatever it is, the text replacing the clouds, and these quite beautiful, you know, landscapes probably done from memory, painted by Rustic Digital Art. So a nice addition to the collection. Sold out at, let's just see, edition of 10 sold out at 6. So again, a very healthy market here, I might add. Like, people are still selling out and regularly. It's pretty impressive. Old school pixelized violence stamp. So, of course, this is GloomTube, and kind of a cool use of, cool concept here. Some pixelation, because you can see here it's on, looks like a YouTube feed. Maybe the second time GloomTube has actually used that. Old school pixelized violence stamp. So just live leak here. And so here you see some people beating each other up. You know, I was hearing stories yesterday on the Berlin subway, or my hairdresser was telling me a couple of days ago, Berlin subway at 11, big fight, bottles being smashed on people's heads. It's getting rough out there sometimes. RJ, Midnight Augury. Really cool work here. Looking like maybe it was designed for on-chain and decided not to, and then adding this trademark signature RJ screensaver here on the beautiful green screensaver on the laptop here. Cool work, I might add. And even I like the margins here. The margins add a lot, kind of lets the work breathe. Interesting piece. Midnight Augury. Interesting title. Edition of 5, 22 Tezos each. How many are left? Let's just see. One left. I mean, RJ's just like, the market is quite healthy. Like, people are buying a lot of art right now. This is definitely from Curio Fringe's feed. Sailor Mokos, Carolina George. So, not exactly sure, but I thought this was pretty interesting. Edition of 10. There's 8 left, and it's 0.7 Tez. So, this is like the classic kind of really interesting artwork you're going to find on Curio Fringe's feed. So give Curio a follow. Just really super original, interesting art. This I think I saw on Instagram. It is on Instagram. The Failed Pianist. And this is a digital drawing. So interesting subject. Kind of reminds me of The Failed Artist a little bit. I thought it was just a nice digital painting. Interesting, the spilled bottle of wine here. And all sorts of kind of symbolism here. And here's other work by this artist. I've never seen them before. Elchup. Julian Rappolini. I guess I was following them. Gregorio Zanardi, I think previously known as Greco, Undefined Gold. This was just released and looks like perhaps, and this looks like, what would you call it, cricket player with the cricket kind of stick or whatever it's called here, not there, interestingly, and in the air. So interesting work, and the horse is smoking. So interesting piece here. I think this is already sold out. Again, like healthy market here. 3 Tezos each, pretty reasonably priced. All that being said, Bazaya with a new one. Unknown Man that looks like Frida and Salvador. Interesting combination of Frida Kahlo and Salvador Dali here with a very nice background here. Nice work by Bazaya, and this is an edition of 20, and there are 5 left at 15 Tezos. Nice color scheme. Yuri J. Pencil Exercise, very interesting piece here. Kind of a, as you can see here, almost showing like drawings here, and there is the pencil here. Really interesting. There's something about it that it almost has, it's almost like cider here in its texture. Like there's something kind of similar here in the texture. Whatever they're doing, it could be a completely different process. I'm sure it is, obviously. But these textures are really nice and impressive, even in the drawings here. In the pencil, just a nice piece here. Edition of 30, 7 Tezos, 10 left. And so continuing on, look at this. Brand new work here by Santiago on Super Rare. I will consider offers. So a nice original piece here from Santiago, trying new things here. And I brought it up big just so people can see. Again, so kind of, vector-based kind of abstract art here, I think we could describe it as. So a huge file, as usual, kind of trademark these massive files. Pretty nice piece, pretty interesting piece, pretty original piece. Now on Super Rare, look at that. Interesting patterning here, but it's like there are no straight angles here. Everything is curved, interestingly, like a vector. Continuing on, this is Gons, and another interesting abstract here. And here you see just a ton of experimentation, kind of lo-fi pixelation here, interesting textures, interesting work. Abstract glitch artwork made mixing code, custom digital paint tool, and traditional image editing software. Buy now, 1 of 1 for 35 Tezos. Very interesting. And here is Cider, and you see these great textures here, Untitled 2023. And so I think interesting crop too, by the way. Looks kind of like things are getting stretched out here. Maybe you just take a little bit and you stretch it out, and then you start to get like the lighter part at the end, and then you put a process on top. Very nice. I'm not sure who this is. It's probably someone famous. 37,000 views. Cider has just a massive audience. Graphica with a work here. Log Lost Mind Map. So another one of these PNGs, I believe. And here is just another with these great, like, looks like foundation in the background here. On the top and bottom as a framing device of sorts, are really nicely kind of stretched out and dragged out, kind of referencing the, I guess, the sales, the sales tool, for lack of a better term, or the marketplace. I think this is it Rita or is it Pepitas? Pamelo Cerrone actually tweeted this out. It's on Zora here, only 3 minted. Interesting piece. Vellapalucha 3000 times Rita. So, and I think Pepitas is I'm not sure if Rita or Pepitas is the artist. Interesting work here. Kismet Kaza. And here I wasn't quite sure who the artist is either, because it kind of looks very trademark Tornado Rodriguez in the drawing here. But these almost look like Nuv 1914, don't they, in the gradient? So maybe they teamed up here. It wasn't exactly clear to me because I think Kismet Kaza minted everything. So I'm not exactly sure who the artist is here. I assume Tornado Rodriguez has something to do with it. Really interesting piece here. Even the little window coming down here. Gotta love it. Nuv 1914 and Campos. So another one of one. Let's actually look at what it sold for. Going for probably only 10 Tezos to one of one. And I think one of one is next week. No, it's in maybe a couple of weeks. Next week is going to be Michele Colonna. And so that is next week on the Spaces. I should email to confirm, but it looks like everything it's in the calendar. Let's put it that way. So more interesting work here from Nuv 1914. And let's keep speeding along here. There's a couple others here. Organico. Interesting, almost kind of line drawings with, again, these trademark outrageous gradients in the background here, and the flowers with different kind of smiles. Making it look easy to make these sort of decisions here. These are very counterintuitive decisions that Nuv 1914 is making, which I think is part of the charm. Again, putting a gradient here, that is not common, but quite beautiful, right? So a lot of counterintuitiveness here. And again, look at this gradient through the figure here. Just super interesting, right? Its counterintuitiveness is part of what makes it so great. Danzas, and this is an edition of one, selling to line extension, only 10 Tezos, nice composition. Rinnyfish and Wannerleg collab piece, Deer Wings, and let's see if this one plays. Kind of looks like Rinnyfish is in the middle here. Cool work. Very deep vibe on the music there too. Collab piece. So I guess Wannerleg probably did this work in the background here. And maybe Rinny did a little bit of the color on there. Not sure. Cool collab. Buy now for 4 Tezos, edition of 50, 42 left. And continuing on, another work by Rinnyfish, using these kind of cool pixels here. Let me see if I can make that even slightly smaller here so it fits the screen. Nice piece. Hey, nice kind of abstract in the background. Great color. This nice kind of pixel thing going on top, kind of translucent pixels with even, kind of coming from the edges here. Almost like a spotlight or effect of certain kind. Continuing on. Tito's 90, The Sinking Voice, more kind of surreal illustration here. And we see an astronaut in a head. So Tito is a pretty cool artist here, and some animation and whatever's going on here with the hand. And really carefully, nicely illustrated. Again, very counterintuitive, a lot of these decisions here. Very cool work, really nice here, and then the beautiful tree. And this head is actually kind of like a sculpture, almost like a ruin. And then here you have like I guess you'd call that a manhole or something, a sewer cover, perhaps. The Sinking Voice edition of 10, and let's just see what happened here, just minted. And Katerina Create, Joyful Blossoms, so you can get a one of one for 20 Tezos here from Katerina Create, and just another really cool, fun drawing of flower blossoms for its own joy. Very distinct, identifiable style and palette, and just beautiful work as usual. One of one if you don't have your Katerina Create unique yet. Antonio Loves with a one of one, and I think this was just sent to someone. Protect the Peach. And here, again, great to see Antonio Loves back. I hadn't seen some work for a while. He may have been releasing some. And so anyway, just another interesting work here. Digital illustration transferred to Bullseye. So a one of one here, and interesting wings. Again, kind of always has a bit of a, there is a surrealism to it. It's almost like a category. Surreal illustration, and there's always oftentimes an angelic sort of theme. Almost looks like St. George and the Dragon type composition here as well, though, with the guy with the sword, so just kind of interesting. Jake Studios, Tezos Hooper. So having fun here. This maybe is also a portrait of all of us here, working on Tezos at least, and almost like, is that like Dennis Rodman perhaps with the pink hair? And classic sort of basketball look. Tezos Hoopers. So at auction, one of one for only 5 Tezos. So that is happening. Daniel W., the Dreamer. So another really cool illustration here from Daniel W., kind of haunting a little bit. And almost a bit of a Klimt feel on this one, black and white, and it's got that print and that print texture, and also this kind of noise, which is really beautiful. The black noise coming through the white rectangle here, and different processing, the lighter black and the darker black, and everything. MP4, 10 frames per second, 5 Tezos edition of 25. Lewis Harriet. I'm not sure if this is new or not. The arterial gardenia. This is on Instagram here. Interesting illustration here, kind of surreal as well. And you can see others, right? So interesting artist here. And continuing on, this is Pomelo. One of one for only 15 Tezos here. Let us play that. It's always cool music too. So pretty fun. I think it's part of like a turntable series or based series. Pretty cool track, might add. So that is Tercero. That is on Object or Tezos. Ugo, UFO Down. So there is a Alien Drop by Next Wave Collective. So there are a few kind of alien-based works that we're starting to see. Cool kind of UFO, done treated a la Ugo 42. And really like the stars too here on this one. Nice color, by the way. And one also by Element Lee. And who did I see tweet this out? Was it Unknown Collector, who also is putting out some really nice, just kind of curated feeds? Unknown Collector, I think I saw this on. So again, Element Lee with very kind of experimental pixel art. Really interesting, edgy pixel artist. I think makes it on the phone, interestingly. And here's just maybe a space person seeing a cave on another planet. So fun work there. Temple Mizmiz, also known as Mo SHIT, Sad Clown Robot Dude. So more of these very interesting kind of figures here. And remember in the comment there, we were seeing how one of the artists was saying Temple Mizmiz is one of my favorite artists on Tezos, or my favorite, I believe. So anyway, here's some of the work, more cool work here. One of one for only 20 Tezos. Sad Clown Robot Dudes, Technical Service. And again, combining these figures that we were also highlighting here the other day. Interesting clouds here. Very prolific artist. And the clouds, and interesting in the top left here with this kind of rainbow of sorts, or at least just multicolor stripes. And this kind of machine here almost looks like a train, kind of a surreal work here. Technical Service. And here's another one, Wizard Mamic. I think we might even have one more after this. So just interesting work here as we continue to scan the blockchain here. Interesting blue background uniting them all. One of one for 15 Tezos, and here's one more. Necromancer Cat. Trying to think of who these remind me of, these kind of figures here, these full-bodied figures. It does echo something in my mind here. And so just another cool work. Looks like painting with the skulls here in the maybe mustache or mouth and everything. So more interesting work here from Temple Mizmiz. One of one for 15 Tezos, all available. And this is Cancino. Cancino with another soccer work, You Lose. So this was pretty cool. Another just, I love the soccer works. I need to mint, I hope I can still mint the Diego Maradona, the goal of the century. Again, just cool subject matter and really fun and well done. Ultra Rare and Muay Thai Food Club, so probably Ultra Rare. I just saw this on Instagram here. Interesting pixel artist. Not sure if they mint. Pretty interesting work here, isn't it? And here you see flowers and just another take on pixel art, isn't it? Or at least on square brushes. I think we could call this pixel art. But maybe it starts to ride the edge a little bit. But I think it'd still be, interesting question. Feel free to weigh in. And this is Violet Trip, and One Bit by Violet Trip. So pretty cool. Let's see if there's volume on that. Oh, there is. The volume almost makes it too. Let's see. Pretty cool. So this is on sealed.art. Remember that? see if I can, not sure if I knew how to stop that. Yes, sealed art. Remember we saw Kiro's work on sealed art? Gasless spitting. Not exactly sure beyond that what's going on there, but another work there. Jacques Disclosure Renaissance. So just more kind of interesting crypto art here from Jacques Disclosure. Nice kind of light purple here and the black. Kind of nicely done, and love the big pixels. Cool title, cool subject, cool composition. And there is Internet Explorer at the top of the column here, really treated and kind of like with its own kind of filter there, seemingly. And maybe that's also done up here. And skulls looks like crypto art. And here, of course, is mech.txt, a friendly visitor, sold for 0.759 ETH. So great sale here, because of course ETH is at, let's say, $2,000. We're talking like $1,600 here. So nice sale here for mech.txt with this very kind of pretty monochromatic work here. With and here you have the skull. Well, it looks like maybe smoking a cigar, or maybe there's just like this kind of luminescent thing, and then it's, who knows, and then the C in the background, nice animation on Foundation, really working it across blockchains here too. A friendly visitor, cool title here, as we need to, we're already at an hour 5, we got to run through the rest of this episode. Cap'n, who I do follow, Evaporate, just another cool work here. From Cap'n, just putting it on Twitter. Muji with a couple of works that are the same but with different colors. Overhang Tower, so here's one, and here is the other. Overhang Tower, V2, and let's just look at the, so maybe that first one was burnt. So this one was burned. So there's actually probably only one, I think. We can go very, very quickly here, but we got to run. Yeah, so there's only one that is officially released. Okay, so only one version. This is the burned one, and this is Opia, Alone in the Shadows. Looking like using some sort of text kind of filter here, or character filter. A nice piece, and you gotta love up here the formula in the window, in the old Mac window. That's kind of fun. Alone in the Shadows, Opia. 30 Tezos, 1 of 1. Tired Pixels, RMilk 88, Tired Pixels number 63. Again, looking like using perhaps a few different, using ASCII, using maybe some kind of pixel. Interesting combination of elements here, and cool frame as well. So RMilk back at it, 25 Tezos, edition of 10. This is sold out, so that's on secondary, and sold out at 8 Tezos each. Nice. For RMilk, Mayu with the pixel artwork, Tales of the Wandering Samurai. Classic colors here from Mayu. Very cool frame here as well. So nice work. And I love the black and white sword, actually, with everything else being colored. 370 on secondary, edition of 45. Maybe that's primary. Marcel Munteanu. This is an edition of 30, C30, just kind of a semi-abstract, I guess, and just almost what I call the sketchbook style, just kind of combining a bunch of different stuff with no real kind of sense of space, although there's a little bit of space here. Just interesting pixel artwork from Marcel Munteanu. And Silva Santus with a really kind of nice effect here. Another glitch ROM, kind of, you know, scaling down or upwards, I guess, with the angels here. But not sure if sometimes you feel like you're going up, sometimes it feels like you're going down, and this maybe is hell. So kind of an interesting take on the Last Judgment here. Fallen, great title, SNES, and that must be the game here. Open edition for 666. Renki Higashi Okayama. And here is just another interesting work, animated abstract by Renki. And of course, edition of 10, and probably none listed yet. Human Boy with work here too, which kind of fit nicely. And so a nice animated abstract from Human Boy on X. And here's another one that could hang right beside it. This is by Datura K-Talk. Pretty cool, very fast, kind of jittery work here by Datura. And here's another one, Kazuhiro Ehira. And let's look at the speed here. This is unusual, how the speed changes. I'm not sure if that's my computer. I don't think so. I think that's the work. So interesting piece here, kind of different textures. Very interesting animated abstract. Kazuhiro Ehira is a very interesting experimental artist. Edgy, always experimenting and not afraid to take chances aesthetically. This, Trash Love, is the work, and the creator is Mr. VLDZ. Fun work here. This is on 01. So 01 is still happening. Love those big pixels, and it all works because it contrasts with this almost photographic totter. Pretty hilarious music there too. in companion music, LB Wave 2. So another really cool kind of animated, abstract, textured work from LB. Really nice pieces coming out there. Edition of 5 for 5 Tezos, and 2 left. Things are selling. Here's Kurt Hustle Collective, Taspo Colorimetric Analysis. And I think this is just music. I don't think there's any video here. Be the first to mint. 1 day mint. Wow. I'm gonna mint this. I shouldn't have showed this. Wow. What if? What if you're the only person to mint it? So, very cool from Kurt Hustle Collective. Keep that window open. Salawaki. Let's bring up Here and Now. So, always a bit of humor in everything with Salawaki, kind of video. Let's take a look. And here is the decision. I think it was talking about Face the World. Stay here as long as you like. Almost like a Ed Ruscha sort of feel to it with the text on top. And let's just go to the question. Are you ready to face the world? Yes, no. Okay, beautiful. So, and you don't have to. Salawaki, 5 Tezos, edition of 20, and there are 10 left. Get it while you can. Coda Nakazono, Continuum number 171. So another continuing the continuums. And across chains here. And so cool circuit board on this one. Nice. So keeping it interesting. Almost look like contact lens over here. $29.99. So doing these low editions and selling out. Let's just see what the mint price are. 15 Tezos. So nice work from Coda. This is from Curio Fringe's feed. I thought would hang really well with Coda Nakazono there. Collect for only $150. So, I mean, Curio finds these really kind of cool, obscure works that are usually super cheap. So here's another one. This is Sombre Senses. Maybe Sombre is the artist, and I think this is called Onus. Super interesting here. Hour and 12. We got to hurry up. Martin Joe, The Pink Room. Red wine and spiky chairs in the Pink Room. So another work here by Martin Joe using maybe some AI, maybe some 3D tools, and always has an edge here with these wild spiky chairs here, and always something going on here, and some red wine and upside down cross with the Tezos logo on top. Really nice floor, by the way. So, and there's the person, you know, the Marquis de Sade, what is it? Is it the 120 days where people are used as furniture? You know, so again, kind of dark humor in a lot of, you see a lot of it with Martin Joe. Passa Mostagim. And it's very hard to read the entire 120 Days by Marquis de Sade. I wouldn't even recommend it. It's something you kind of open up and look through. To read the whole thing, I can't even imagine. I think Juliet and what's the other one called are a little more readable. But it's interesting to open up those books, but viewer discretion is advised on those books. So here, Parsamostagame with some more kind of CGI type works that would also hang nicely in the same room as, say, Martin Joe with the CGI here. Fructose Chase, so interesting piece here. Off into AI with a really cool work here by Sky Goodman. Astralis is now live on M-Props. 40 long-form generative AI, 1-of-1s, 10 Tezos each. So here are a couple of examples. Pretty cool. And I even brought, this was almost, I think this is in it too, and it's almost like, you know, plasticine-like, or you see the drop shadow there, it's almost sculptural. So interesting AI project by Sky Goodman, 1-of-1. And here's another one, and you can just cycle through on the Emergent Properties website. And only 2 left. So pretty successful situation here from Sky Goodman. Nice pieces. This is Richard Nadler, with a take on Hokusai's Wave, Izanami Islands, arriving December 14th. At least that's what it looks like. And again, kind of 3D-esque, isn't it? I wonder if this is a M-Props. This is on Verse. Interesting. So this will be on Verse. Read about Richard Nadler's upcoming series, Izanami. So if you go to VerseWorks, you can learn more about this. Cool AI art. Marina Amadova with a couple of cool flower works here. Again, kind of painterly in the background here. Glimpses Beyond, this edition of 10 for $6.50 and a 1 of 1 for $65. Soulful Reflections, and again, a nice painterly flower work by Marina Amadova. Nice textures there. And continuing on Zoom, the Interstellar Connection. This is an AI series that has been meant. I'm not sure if this is M-Props or not, but a pretty cool. I love the stars, actually, in this kind of almost orange-like moon, and just interesting composition here. You can see more on Zoom's page. And also Young Caravaggio, for long-time viewers. You might remember Young Caravaggio's shoes. Were coming out like in maybe last October, a year ago, kind of would hang well with Strange Things, some of those shoes. Yeah, remember these? That artist. Young Caravaggio is back. I saw on Instagram, which is interesting. And look at this. Look at this work by Strange Thing. I think, it kind of reminds me of this market in Palermo. I went to a 1,000-year-old market in Palermo. I was guessing it was 2,000 years. The Baloro, I think it's called. And everywhere I looked, it was like a Renaissance painting. Not necessarily the safest place I've ever been, to be frank. But everywhere I looked, there's like the guy who is running away with the money, and the other guy everywhere I looked, it was like a Renaissance painting. I was like, this market is ancient. And sure enough, I looked it up online. It's 1,000 years old. And of course, Palermo famously had Arab, Norman, and Latin cultures, and Greek, all kind of, mixed together there in Palermo. Kind of interesting history of multiculturalism. Anyway, I'm off topic here. Look at these shoes. So just brilliant color. Strange Thing is able somehow to really emulate the color of some just gorgeous Renaissance artworks. Is doing just a fabulous job here. This one is really fun, and these very colorful shoes and this kind of Renaissance backdrop. It's brilliant. It's just brilliant. Olivera Durdovic, Lost Edge, so more interesting work here. AI painting, I believe, I'm almost sure, and kind of surreal here with this figure kind of coming in here. So interesting piece, inspired by a knife from the Haneke's Funny Games. And this was posted, I think, by Ripcash in Cosmo's curator feed. And I thought that was pretty cool work here. Eternal Q, the artist is Toddy. I'd never seen before. AI, doesn't it kind of remind you of those textures? I think it was Gozo, right? Doesn't it have that kind of Gozo as well as Scamra kind of feeling to it? And so this is AI collage, moshed, then dithered. So you're getting the sense that maybe similar tools are being used. It is at auction at 0.248 or 0.225. Medici emerging. 2 hours to go on that auction. And here's Scamra. Again, I think using similar tools here. This is on Foundation. I don't think I've shown this one. It's possible I did. What does it mean to dream of a black rainbow? So all to say, these are starting to be minted here on Foundation. 0.05 ETH, very attractive price. Here's another one, reserve of 0.05 ETH. So these super cool AI illustrations of people at computers, just totally awesome. Stable diffusion and diffusers textual inversion. So great work from Scamra. And then finally, Nugget Brain. Look at that. This is such a brilliant work. I don't think I've shown this one before. It was just posted by Nugget Brain. I think I might have seen it being made. Just an awesome artist. That's probably Nugget Brain there. I've shown a lot of Nugget Brain. Look at this one with the sunset in the background. I'm just such a huge fan of this artist. Really, really cool artist. So you noticed it's not necessarily that huge, some of these works, interestingly. Fun times with wacky wax pastels. Again, it's sort of like, as an artist, if you ever hit a roadblock, try a different medium and see what it does. Tetsunorita Waraya. Just interesting illustration here. Kind of has a zine feeling to it. Quite brilliant and original in the color scheme. I'd say more than anything. Very original color schemes here. So pretty cool. Kind of looks like Predator, doesn't it? Here, kind of looks like Alien a little bit there, but not. So just really interesting work here. Maybe Riso is how it's been produced. It looks like a really nice Riso. Pretty interesting work. Look at this artist, Bondozo Bandito. This is your reward for staying for an hour and 20 minutes. Look at this artist here, Bondozo Bandito. Listen to Me, Kiss Me Badly. Just a super interesting artist here. Another discovery. We're drowning in art over here. It's just like great diptych. Looks like, you know, the sort of thing you'll see on a Ryanair flight, you know, these kind of instructions. Here, this looks like Dürer reference. So all looking like mostly appropriated art. Again, it has that airbrush or spray paint kind of look. Really not worrying about what it looks like in a sense. And then at the end, it looks really good. Just really great work here from Bondozo Bandito. I think a younger guy here, as you can see. And there's these Robert Crumb works. I brought up these other works. Like this is Robert Crumb, I'm sure. And look, like, but done with this kind of spray painty style, divided up, moving silent, shining the noise. Really super interesting artist here. This is Machine. Just want to, I want to go to we'll come back to that artist. Here's Machine. Howdy. And so another really cool skateboard work by Machine. Here's another one, Julian Pace. And this wildly kind of, you know, distorted soccer player, very tiny head on this canvas here. There's a ton of great work coming out in the physical world too. And a lot of these people don't necessarily have like huge followings. Like, this person has a pretty big following, 21,000. You know what's interesting about this piece? I was looking at it and I thought, I love the drips. I love the part on top. They kind of make the work, but it turns out that is actually, this is the work. And I like the work, actually. It's really well done. But I thought this one was amazing. Isn't that interesting? New painting headed to Indonesia for Beka Art Gallery and Art Jakarta. The opening. Cool, interesting work. And here's Joachim Official. I don't think we've seen this Batman one before. Very cool. The Warriors, like an original Batman cover. And here's someone, Antonio Murgia. So this looks like maybe a collage. And with some paint, 55 by 110 centimeters, so not tiny. Colpo di Fulmine, not sure what that means. Working on my Italian, and of course, Joao Salazar. I think this is still a work in progress. So still working on this piece. Looks like a combination of plasticine and paint, but maybe this is just really thick medium. Very cool. And that finally, oh my God, and I don't know how I'm gonna make the show shorter, but we're gonna have to. With that, thank you for joining me. Until next time, take care.